right up here, please.
Ms. Newman, may I have you raise your right hand?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
If you could please state your name and then spell your name for the record.
Tammy Newman, Tammynewman.
Ms. Newman, how are you currently employed?
I'm a school counselor and a high school teacher.
And how long have you been a school counselor and high school teacher?
Well, this is my 5th year as a school counselor, my 4th year doing both jobs.
Was there a time that you worked for Pathways Transitions?
Yes.
And what is that, Pathways?
It is an agency that delivers mental health services.
And what did you do while you worked at Pathways?
I was a therapist.
And how long were you at Pathways?
2 years.
You indicated you were a therapist. Were you a therapist of, what kind of therapist were you?
I did therapy for adults and children, families.
Would you go to their homes or would they come to you?
Most of the time I would go to their homes. There were a few cases where clients would come to my office, but 99% of the time I would see them in the community, at home, in group homes, at school, daycare.
And how did you receive patients at Pathways?
Sometimes I would get patients by parents calling their Medicare provider, and then they would get a referral that way or through school counselors or DFACs.
Approximately what percentage of your clients came through DFACs?
Probably at least 50%.
And why is that?
Because Pathways had a contract with the state of Georgia. They were what is known in the industry as a core provider for services for those types of places, like DFACs, the juvenile court system.
And when you say services, what kind of services are you talking about?
Therapy, assessments, family therapy.
So it would be fair to say mental health type services?
Yes.
Now, were you working at Pathways on June 29 of 2015?
Yes.
And at that time, did you receive a call, or some sort of communication from an individual named Samantha White?
I would have probably received that prior to that date, but yes.
And who is Samantha White?
At that time, she was a caseworker for Henry County DFACs.
And during the time period you worked at Pathways, would clients be referred to you through DFACs in Henry County?
Yes.
And would that happen through the caseworkers?
Yes.
And why did Ms. White contact you?
Well, specifically for this case, she wanted me to go out and meet with a foster parent who had some children in her care, and to see if the girls needed therapy. And so at that time, she just sent the Shines referral, which was the referral for the services, to our main office, and then it was sent to me.
And on June 29 of 2015, did you go to the home of a Mrs. Lambert?
Yes.
And at that time, did you meet an individual named Millie Place?
Yes.
How old was Millie when you went to the home?
She must have been around 3, I'm thinking. I can't remember exactly.
Was she under the age of 5?
Yes.
And at that time, did you also meet an individual named Laila Daniel?
Yes.
And how old was she?
She was younger than Millie. I don't think she was quite 2 yet. Maybe she was 2.
During your visit to the Lamberts, did you speak with Miss Lambert about why the children were in her care?
Yes, I had to do an assessment, like an intake. So, yes, I would have asked that.
And when you do an assessment, what kind of information are you gathering?
Well, I just needed to know the background. In this case, because it was a defects case, I just needed to know the background and try to determine if there had, what type of trauma or issues had occurred in their lives. So I was just trying to get the background to figure out how they came into care.
And did you have any conversations with Millie Place?
I didn't really have a conversation with her. She did come in the room. I can't remember. It seems like she could talk, but I can't remember. It's been a long time, and I can't remember exactly. Maybe she said hi.
Did you ever provide any therapy services for Millie and Laila?
No, I did not.
And what was the reason for that?
As a core provider, Pathways could not provide services to children under the age of 5 because those children can't receive a mental health diagnosis typically, and in order to provide core services, there has to be a DSM diagnosis.
And is this this rule about having to receive a DSM diagnosis prior to providing services, was that a rule that Pathways put up, or was it a more global rule?
It's a more global rule with Medicaid.
And was June 29, 2015 the only time that you met Millie Place and Laila Daniel?
Yes,
And other than that, you had no further contact with the children?
I did not.
Thank you. If no further questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And cross.
Good afternoon, Ms. Newman. My name's Corinne Mall. I just have a few questions to ask of you. Laila was not talking at the time, was not able to talk. She was too young, correct?
She did not speak when I saw her.
And she was with the Lamberts at that time.
She was.
And the Lamberts were defects foster parent, correct?
Yes.
And this was in June, this was June 2nd of 2015. Does that seem about right?
I don't know what date it was. I don't have access to those records anymore.
Okay, well, let me show you let me see if this refreshes your recollection.
It looks like this says June 29th.
June 29th?
That's what it looks like it says.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Well, I don't remember the specific date, but
Okay, but
I knew that it was in June.
you knew it was in June of 2015. And Miss Lambert gave you a history, medical history, so to speak.
Not real. I don't think there was a medical history.
Was it a social history?
Maybe.
Okay. And she told you that
Objection.
it's a history given to a practitioner, a therapist. And
She didn't provide therapy.
no, but she was going to, and I think she did provide some
Her
therapy.
role was that of a therapist for Pathways transition at times. Responsible to see.
Your Honor, this witness testified that she never provided therapy services. She went out to assess, and it is hearsay. It's something that another individual told her.
And that individual is going to testify, Your Honor, so she'll be able to be cross-examined, otherwise I'd have to ask her to come back.
But this is related to diagnosis and treatment.
Yes.
As part of an assessment, overall the objection.
Thank you. Ms. Lambert shared with you that Laila had anger problems, right?
Is that what it says on the paper?
Well, I'm asking you.
Well, I'm not going to be able to remember that. I haven't
Okay, well,
seen
see
any
if
of
this
that.
refreshes your recollection.
Well, that's what it says here.
Does what does it say there?
Foster mother shared that Layla appears to have anger problems.
Okay, and she told you that Layla had not really had any contact with her mom since her birth, correct?
Yes.
And she told you that biological mother was on meth and her whereabouts were currently unknown, correct?
Yes.
And she told you that Layla bites and scratches her older sister and her foster siblings when she is mad.
Yes.
And she appears to have anger problems, especially related to food.
Yes.
And you spoke to Miss White at some point, correct?
I either spoke to her or emailed her. I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall telling Miss White on July 14th, 2015, that Millie can be very grown and she likes to be in adult conversations?
I don't.
You don't recall? See
No.
if this refreshes your recollection.
That's what it says here.
And Millie can be very grown and likes to be in adult conversation. Isn't it true that you also said you were going to see if one of your coworkers could take over because you had challenges with Layla because she was not verbal?
Well, that's what it says here, though I do not believe that I said that to her.
Okay, so you don't recall saying that to her.
No.
And do you recall telling her that Layla was not verbal and that was perhaps the reason why she was so aggressive?
I don't specifically recall that, but I do think that I would say that.
Okay, thank you.
You follow?
Just briefly, the information that you received about Layla biting and being aggressive was from the foster mother?
Yes.
Was that anything you ever observed while you were over there?
No.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.